If you've inherited a house in Texas and the heirs can't agree on what to do with it, you may have heard the term partition lawsuit and wonder what it means and how it applies to you. Before you go down that road, it's important to understand what it really is and what it really costs. My name is Nate Clark. I'm a probate-focused realtor here in Austin, Texas. I help heirs and executors navigate these decisions and sell inherited property in Texas every single week. So what is a partition lawsuit in plain English? A partition lawsuit is a legal action when multiple property owners that jointly own a property together can't agree on what to do with it. In Texas, a partition lawsuit asks the court to either physically divide the properties, which is really rare with houses, or order the property to be sold and split the proceeds between all the owners. For residential homes, this almost always results in a court-ordered sale. So when do partition lawsuits typically happen? Partition lawsuits typically come up when probate has already been completed and the property is now owned by multiple heirs. It's when there's no executor with authority anymore. One heir wants to sell and another refuses, and the property is no longer part of the estate. At that point, co-owners have equal legal rights and disagreements can't be resolved through probate authority. So who can file a partition lawsuit in Texas? In Texas, any co-owner can file for partition. That means even a minority owner can force the issue. You don't need unanimous consent, and the court doesn't require everyone to agree. This is why partition lawsuits are often used as a last resort. Now, what happens when a partition lawsuit is filed? Once a lawsuit is filed, attorneys are involved on one or both sides. The court oversees the process. Independent appraisal may or may not be ordered, and the property is potentially ordered to be sold. And in many cases, the sale is actually handled under court supervision, not like a normal retail listing. So why partition lawsuits are usually a bad financial outcome? This is what most people don't understand going into it. Partition lawsuits often result in legal fees actually being paid out of the proceeds of the sale, higher transaction costs because attorneys don't seem to be getting cheaper with each passing month, and less control over pricing and timeline than if the sale wasn't being court supervised. This results in a lower net amount for all the co-owners. By the time everything is resolved, everybody usually walks away with less money than if the home had been sold cooperatively. Another thing to think about is that the emotional costs are actually typically higher than any legal fees tied to the sale. Partition lawsuits tend to permanently damage family relationships. They escalate conflict rather than de-escalate conflict, and they create long-lasting resentment. Think about it. The attorneys involved aren't financially incentivized to make everybody happy and make the sale go cooperatively, otherwise they wouldn't be involved to begin with. They want to hit you with as many billable hours as humanly possible. Once it reaches this point, it's rarely just about the house anymore. Most families try to avoid partition by clarifying authority early on in the process, getting a neutral market value opinion, understanding how proceeds would be split, and bringing in professionals to explain options. Particularly if you consider that when you're using a realtor doesn't get paid until they bring an offer that's a win-win for everybody. Hiring attorneys, they charge billable hours, so they're not really incentivized to get things done as quickly as possible. Once everybody understands these financial realities, any disputes resolve without the court being involved. Sometimes, despite all best efforts, one owner refuses all reasonable solutions. The property continues to deteriorate, and no cooperative consensus can actually be reached. In these cases, partition may be the only way forward, but it should be reviewed as a last resort, not a strategy. Now, I'm not an attorney and I don't give legal advice, but I see this happen all the time. I've been involved in these kinds of disputes regarding probate property in my own family. And I would rather that you fully understand and explore all of your options before bringing out the big guns, going to court, suing each other, probably creating more long-term damage within the family. If you want help understanding the real estate side, including who has authority, what a realistic market value might look like, what some of your options and timelines could look like, I'm happy to be available whenever it's helpful for you, and I've attached all my contact information in the description below.